sometimes basketball's the only thing in my life that makes sense. Hey, I know that if I shoot this basketball the same exact way every single time, I know, you know what I'm saying? In life, there's just so many other things that happen to me that have happened to me, having people around me.
All right, so I'm here today with who?
Aubrey Williams.
Aubrey Williams. Glad to have you here. So thank you, because I know this is a little unorthodox currently, but I definitely wanted to have a conversation with you just because of our conversations, as we mentioned before, they just kind of flow and can go on for hours. So I definitely want to kind of get your perspectives on some things and share that with other people. So the main topic I have that is something that I would say I learned from you is that you see the world for what it is. It's a game. So let's jump into that.
Okay.
So D1 athlete right here. Talk about a little bit how you got into basketball and how that's kind of helped you play this game of life.
Okay. Got into basketball. I did it, to your point about being unorthodox, I did it very abnormally. I was one of those kids that played a bunch of AAU growing up. I didn't really play organized basketball until high school. High school had a random growth spurt, grew like 6 inches over a summer, decided to play basketball. Due to getting into it so late, by the time it came time to graduating, I was 16 years old from skipping grades, but I was still kind of awkward in my body. So went to prep school for a year down at IMG in Florida. Picked up some offers and ended up getting one to Toledo and meeting some of my best friends in this whole wide world. But then the experience itself, I think that, to your point, lucky for me, I always tell people, like, I was able to see a little bit of everything with it. Like, hey, from my I guess say my time at my two schools, I was able to be like, hey, a certified bench warmer, like last guy on the bench, to hey, being on the bench when I should have been playing, to being a six man, to being a team captain and a guy. So, I was able to see the whole thing, and I think it kind of mimics life in that you go through seasons, and sometimes you're the man, sometimes you're not.
Right. So after graduating, what was that transition like from being you said the six man, going through all those different seasons, from being involved in basketball for a good amount of time to leaving that all behind and moving on, transitioning into that next chapter?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of mimics it. Like, so I remember when I was looking to transfer, I had a guy reach out to me, a coach from like an old team I played on, reach out to me. He's like, hey, like, do you want to be a big fish in a small pond, or a small pond or a small fish in a big pond? And I think that's basically what it was. Like, hey, I went from being the big man on campus, big fish in a small pond, to going out in the real world where don't nobody care. Like, you all care. You all talk to me about this D1 thing, but like, don't nobody care. Like, there's NBA players. There's like that D1 thing. It's cool. I mean, like, it's cool to be able to say, like, to some people, like, it's cool that I still hold records. Like, that's cool, but it don't mean nothing. Like, it ain't that big of a deal. So.
Right. I mean, you say it's not one like a big deal, but at the end of the day, he's still like a elite level
Yeah.
athlete at the
Yeah.
end of the day, because a lot of people don't make D1,
Yeah.
and
Go ahead.
it might seem like it's something that's easy for people to do because you see a lot of D1 schools, but how many athletes go on from like the what is it, the AAU leagues, to go on to high school, to that time of graduations come around and you see people going D1, D2, D3. Yeah. It cuts down the numbers drastically. And then of course, like, you in it, you seeing it from that perspective of like, all right, it's an NBA level and I'm not at that level, but it's still, you still high up on that pyramid, on that scale.
I think, to your point, like, I think that's how I keep myself, like, focused. Like, yeah, it's a feat. To your point, I agree 100%. I remember when I was in like middle school, like, our math teacher posted a graphic on the board and it was like, to your point, hey, this percentage of people going to play high school basketball, this percentage going to play college, play D1, NBA, blah, blah, blah. So I know that I beat a statistic by doing it. I I get that, but it's like, you know, I think to kind of keep it in perspective for myself, just how I look at life, you know, like, hey, I took the time, I bask in it, but you know, it is what it is now, you know. I mean, I honestly don't really tell that many people play D1 now. Like if they ask, they find out, cool, but like it's not a leading conversation. Like, hey, you know, 8 years ago I played Division 1 basketball. You know, if that means something
But
to
let me
you.
ask you, and it's like kind of those things where it's like, because all this stuff is a game. It's like if it comes up naturally, it holds more value
Oh, for
rather
sure.
than you just knowing it. Because was it you're telling me about someone getting a job or something
Oh yeah.
based just solely off them playing basketball or something like that?
hmm I mean, don't get me wrong. Like for people that value it, like yeah, like I've had conversations, connections. I've gotten free things just because of it. Like, and also to your point, it's I say this as humbly as possible. Like it's pretty dope that like because I hold records, like there's certain people who have like gone to like fact check me. Like they'll be like, oh yeah, hey, you look kind of big. I'll be like, so I'm like, yeah, back in the day I did. And they'll go Google and they'll be like, oh nah, like he was all conference. And like the cool thing about my school, the second school, the school I went to at Toledo, Kennesaw State, they like I think in my bio they say like finished broke the record for XYZ, was eighth or ninth in the country for XYZ. So when people see these things, they're like, nah, you didn't just play, you're actually pretty decent. So like it's kind of cool in that aspect. Like, yeah, when people do their fact check. So yeah, like that's cool about it. And then to your point, if it comes up in conversation, I can run a list of people off that I've played against. But it's just yeah, I don't know. For me, it's cool. I enjoyed it. It was a good time. But like I said, definitely think I've gotten some connections and benefits from it. Similar to like the fraternity life, you know, it's the benefits extended well beyond just the initial phase of it. That makes sense.
Okay. And I know, well, I'm not sure how many people know this, but I think the people who know you know that
Uh,
what's the word? How do I want to say this?
be careful.
But you love tattoos, right?
Love, love, love.
And I remember we had conversations about like that transition into corporate America,
Uh-huh.
and like I said, if you know you know you have both sleeves,
Uh-huh.
chest, back,
Uh-huh.
legs now,
Uh-huh.
and I remember you saying that you were working in this environment where you would wear long sleeves and cover up so they wouldn't know that you had
In the
tattoos
summer.
in the summer.
Yeah.
Talk about that experience working in a place like that where, as someone who loves tattoos, um, feeling like you had to constrain that side of you.
Good question. I think it's funny. I see people talk about this all the time. Like code switching is a thing, whether people admit it or not. I wholeheartedly believe it's a thing. So yeah, I worked in corporate. So once I graduated, I never went on to go play basketball past college. I finished with my master's in tech, and the first, the first overseas offer I got was less money than the first job offer I got. So it was mathematically, it just didn't make sense to me. I regret it now because I wish I would at least tried it a year, but nonetheless. Um, to your question about the corporate life, so yeah, joined corporate, was in a program, and yeah, like it just was a very good boy or environment. I think that's the word I'm looking for. Like good boy environment, you know. Like so, hey, like you know, I'm around some people who are just very traditional folks. Was wearing slacks to work every day, and you know, it just comes with that. And I could always see when, hey, if my dress shirt pulled up a bit, the first thing their eyes would dart to would be my tattoos. So at first it was an assumption by me, like, hey, you know, anybody want to go to a job, you want to put your best foot forward. But I quickly noticed that people would just, you know, take it every time they see dart down to my sleeve, look down at my sleeve, and then look back up at me. Like so, I just was always cognizant of that.
And so I know you say like this good boy traditional type of environment. Explain that a little bit more. What does that mean?
I mean, I think for me, it's like corporate America, traditional corporate America has an image of what someone should look like. Um, it's very white collar, clean cut, clean shave, no tattoos, no piercings. It's just what the image of what the corporate person's supposed to look like, right? And it's like whether people admit it or not. I mean, the way it should be is not the way it is. I feel like corporate's made great strides, but it's not where it needs to be. It's like I said, that image, I just didn't fit that image. Hey, I'm tall, I'm black, I'm pierced, my ears are pierced, I have tattoos. visible ones. It's like I said, though I got the role, I wanted to make sure, I kept the role by trying to keep up that image the best I could, if that makes sense.
Looking back on it, do you think if you would, how do you think your experience would have went if you would have been more open to like the tattoos, the piercing, and just being more um, stepping into the building as a more authentic version of yourself?
Me personally, I do not think my career will be on the trajectory it's on now.
Really?
I don't think so. Just because the rooms I was able to get in, the people I was able to talk to, it's like I said, fairly solely based on the assumption. I know this to be a fact, but my assumption is that no, my career will not be on the trajectory it's on right now. The rooms I was able to talk to, people I was able to meet, it wouldn't have been the same.
Can you talk about the politics behind it, that side? And like we said, life is a game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's politics in pretty much every aspect, whether it's corporate America, dating, education, organizations, anything. There's some type of politics to it. What was it like for you politicking in that environment in the corporate American side?
Exhausting.
How so?
I think just like I said, you hit it like kind of not being able to be my authentic self, like having to put on a face all day, and then like it just was exhausting. Like, I mean, I think having to, I think I take the, I think my authentic self is that, hey, like I hate small talk. You know, like, hey, if you don't care about how my day is going, don't ask.
Yeah, I feel you on that one.
Like I hate, don't ask. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't really care how my mom's birthday went. Like don't waste your time. Like and corporate's just a bunch of that stuff, and it was like, it was exhausting to deal with, just because hey, like there's a million people, there's a 1,000 people there, and each one of them is going to politic with you, and it's like, hey, I think also a lot of it's fake too. Like, hey, you're gonna politic with me. Hey, me and John are politicking, blah, 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 and John brings up a conversation. Hey, I just checked in with Armani. He's over there doing a great job on its work, right? Armani's killing it over there, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't really care for Armani. And then John's like, oh, actually, me neither. I just wanted to check, and he's on. You know what I'm saying? It's just fake. It's just inauthentic. So it was exhausting having to politic and be a part of that sometimes.
How? Let me see. Like with somebody coming up to you and approaching, you clearly can't trust that person.
Trust
Because
nobody.
they can easily just go and do the same thing that you. And
Exactly.
like you literally coming up to me asking me about someone, and then
Yeah.
kind of, I don't even want to say the word I want to say, but were you able to find any like genuine connections in that?
Yeah.
And how did you go about weeding out people and like seeing like, okay, this person is truly authentic and with their approach and their networking?
I'm naturally very, I guess, observative. Is that a word? I guess naturally very observative. Let's go with that. If not, copyright that John for me. So just observing people, how they move. Like I think so. I was at a company for, let's say, somewhere around like 4 years. Out of those 4 years, and I've met a bunch of different people. I say I probably got like 4 authentic friends out of it. Like that's 1 a year of all the people I met. There's some people that are legit connections. Like I said, there's old bosses I've had that I'm super cool with, and I think if I needed something, and they've reached out for roles. But as far as just people that I want to invite to my wedding, like 4 people. And so how I went about it is just like I said, just observe people. Sometimes people give like, you can give someone a tidbit of information, just see, and like, hey, I would only tell Armani this thing. And then if I somehow hear, if it gets back to me, like stuff like that. But I think honestly, I just went into it that it's worked out for me thus far. Networking is a part of corporate. It's worked out for me in that, hey, I haven't put a heavy emphasis on the networking piece just because, like I said, it gets exhausting at times, and I've still been able to progress in my career. But I think that's part of the reason the way I was able to avoid it, because since I wasn't outwardly looking to network, I kind of didn't have to deal with as much crap as others. Now, like I said, when someone would just reach their hand out to me, I wouldn't slap it away, but I would just be very cautious, very observative, see how they move, see what they want at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants something.
And with this understanding, because I look at it like, I admire the skill set you have, because it just seems like you've understood this game for what it is way before most of us have. And when I say most of us, I mean like in our
Generation,
yeah,
our age group.
yeah, our age group. Um, how does this whole well talk to me about that? How did you become aware of like what the reality of dealing with people, the politicking behind it, um, the I don't want to say necessarily tit for tat, but
Um,
the game,
the game.
the game behind it. How did you peak game,
I think it started.
and what like yeah,
Good.
what age were you, or like that moment where you peaked game of like what reality was?
I think it started when I was like, a teenager. Lucky for me, both my parents work in HR, so they could kind of give me tidbits. But roping back around to basketball, one of the best leaders I ever around was like one of my point guards, my point guard at prep school. And to your point, just like the game of life, game of basketball is about politics. So as a point guard, it's a very pivotal role, right? And so he would politic all the time. Like, like in order to make a team cohesive and work together, you have to pet some egos. And he was really good with that. And I just would watch him move. Like, hey, after practice was over, this person would be sitting over, this person would be sitting over there. And he would go to each one of these people and be able to talk and have a unique conversation with them about something they cared about. Like, hey, Aubrey wants to get his 10 rebounds a game. So, hey, I got to go talk with Aubrey. Hey, what do you need from me? How can I help? And then, hey, Armani wants to get 27 points a game so he could be an All-American. And just watching, and like I said, it's just, that's really what the politicking is. Like, it's just about knowing what people want and helping them get it. That's just really what it is. That's really, honestly, what it is.
Very well put.
Yeah.
Very well put. And two, like you said, you mentioned kind of the basketball thing. And you've lived in multiple cities now, and our time that we lived together in Atlanta, one thing I noticed is that you gonna play basketball some way, shape, or form. You even if you got a work day, long day, some days I just know like, all right, what's going on? You like, I just want to go hoop.
Yep.
And that was kind of like your thing. So talk to me a little bit more about like that passion for basketball, and then its transition or how it's helped you navigate throughout different cities. Because we've even had conversations where you met certain people or been put in positions just because, oh yeah, I hoop with him.
Yeah.
At the gym.
Guys, that's it. I think basketball, my passion for it is just like, I love the science of it. Like it's from a young kid, like even just like I said, I didn't start playing organized, but I've been watching it since I can remember. Just the science of it, and it's like, hey, honestly, basketball now for me is like a stress reliever. Like that's why I can go after a long day of work because work got me stressed out. But sometimes basketball's the only thing in my life that makes sense. Hey, I know that if I shoot this basketball the same exact way every single time, I know, you know what I'm saying? In life, there's just so many other things that happen to me, that have happened to me, having people around me that don't make sense, and I can't make sense of it. But this basketball thing, I know this.
Right.
The book we talk about, we talked about this before, it reminds me of Outliers. Like, hey, they say it takes 10,000 hours to be a professional. I haven't put in 10,000 hours in basketball.
You haven't?
I don't think so.
You've had to.
I don't know.
You've been playing since when?
I've been playing organized basketball since I'm 29 now. I've been playing organized basketball since I was about 14, 15 years.
I think you probably hit that.
I don't know. Like I said, either way it goes, like with the amount of hours I put in, like I understand it, and like I said, it really is a release valve for me. Like it makes sense. I want to be involved in it in some way, shape, or form the rest of my life. Have to be. I'm not saying without it at this point, to be honest.
All right. And I'm gonna wrap it up real quick because we almost out of time.
Okay.
What's one word of advice you would give somebody to put them onto game?
A big one I always say is comparison is the thief of joy. Like, run your race. Like, like don't care about what they're doing over there. Don't care about what he got, she got. Run your race. Like, hey, happiness and success looks different for each person. So I said, rather than just, that's a big reason I'm not on social media. So rather than, just looking at someone else's life, looking at what they have and concerning yourself with those things, just focus on your race and run your race. Comparison is the thief of joy.